I'm now delighted to welcome our keynote speaker for today's forum. Eileen Brown, welcome. She is the Customer Experience Director at Northern Gas Networks in the UK. As many of you will remember, Eileen wowed the audience when she spoke in person at the 2020 CSBA Energy Forum in Melbourne. We're thrilled that she agreed to join us again this year, albeit remotely. Eileen has worked in the utilities sector for over 20 years and has led the customer strategy team at Northern Gas Networks for the last 10 years. During this time, she has been involved in transforming the service delivery of the organisation. She has done this by striving to go above and beyond what customers were expecting. Eileen's presentation today will be strengthening customer-focused culture in challenging times. Eileen, welcome to the forum. You're joining us all the way from London, where it is very late, 11 p.m, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, just after 10 past.
Fabulous. Over to you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Carolee. And thanks everybody for having me again. It's so lovely to see some familiar faces. So thank you, Carolee, for that lovely introduction. Where have the last 2 years gone? And so much has changed. So I think when I was chatting to Paul about the focus for today, it really was about setting the scene for what's happening within the UK currently, where we are in terms of energy, and then how in those challenging times do you keep the customer service culture going, keep that momentum going. So that's what I'll be talking through today. So before I get started, just a little bit of an overview of who Northern Gas Networks are. So we are a gas distribution business. We are, and I am terribly biased, in the best part of the UK, which is the north of England. You wouldn't think that if you were sat here now. I can barely hear myself talk for the hail. We are in the winter, so apologies if you can hear any of that. There's a storm going on outside, but lovely part of the country. We're a regional monopoly, so if you live in our region, we will provide services for you as part of the regulatory framework, and that is the region's gas emergency service. So if you smell gas, we'll attend that. We'll replace the old metal pipes with new plastic ones. On average, 400 to 500 kilometres a year we do, impacting thousands of customers. And then we also provide new gas connections. On average, we only interrupt a customer once in their lifetime. So this isn't a repeat service. You'd be very unlucky or lucky if you were to see us twice in your lifetime. So we understand that this is a one-stop shop to try and get this right. And that's really been the thrust behind our focus over the last 10 years. So what have kind of the last 10 years meant for us? Well, as Carolee said, this journey started for us some time ago. I started in the role 10, I think it might even be 11 years ago now. We saw very little improvement to start off within our customer scores. They were around the low 8s, even the high 7s. So we had a couple of years where things just didn't move. And then 13, 14, things started to change and we started to see improvement. And we've seen then improvement continuously and sustained right up until now. And these scores are based on an average of those 3 service areas that I've just talked through. So emergency, planned work, so mains replacement and new connections. Typically, and I'm sure we all find this across the sector, emergency jobs, emergency work where we go out and fix something seems to score the best because something's broken and we go and fix it. Planned work where nothing's broken and we just go and replace some infrastructure, that's harder to deliver a good customer experience. When we leave, things are still the same, the gas is still the same, we've just fixed the pipes outside. So yeah, it typically is emergency repair high, planned work lower, but this is the average of all of those 3 scoring areas. And yeah, consistent performance, and one as a business we're really proud of. I've done something on this slide that I always advise people not to do, which is put too much information. But I was trying to bring it all together to kind of tell a story of why we've chosen now to focus more internally on our culture. The top band is, well, the whole slide is about how we benchmark outside of sector. And we use the Institute for Customer Service to do this. So it's great that our scores on the previous slide allow us to benchmark with the other gas distribution businesses. We all measure in exactly the same way in the UK. But we also use the Institute for Customer Service to do business benchmarking, and we have done since 2013. We do that every 18 months. That gives us 2 surveys to do, a customer one, which asks lots of detailed questions about our service. It's different to the regulated survey, and a colleague survey. The customer results are that band across the top. So the far left graph shows that actually our benchmarking score of 91, so 9.1 out of 10, is very similar to what we score anyway, and considerably higher than the utility and the UK average of all businesses, which are the bottom green lines. Our net promoter score 93.1, so in essence, customers can't choose who does the things that we do, but that score says to me that they would choose us if they could. So hugely positive. Where we know we needed to focus and really strengthen the service that we provide is actually internally. So the bottom band of results are from our colleague survey. So as you can see, Northern Gas Networks far left, 73, so 74 out of 100 for our colleague survey, lower than the energy and all sector benchmark. And then to the right, we can see strategy and culture, not a bad score, which is our score in that top kind of aqua band, but on people and processes really falling behind. So that actually, we did this for the last time in November last year, and we do it every 18 months. So that said to me, actually, whilst ever we're delivering an exceptional service to our customers, there are things we probably need to fix internally that aren't as robust, as strong, as embedded as we'd hoped they would have been. Now, from what I've seen in our business, and I know about it, the strategy and the culture where we score highest is good. We have lots of people working on this. We talk about customer service all the time. We have lots of improvement groups. The energy is absolutely there. What we needed to do was look at things like training and processes, and I'll come on to that a little bit later on in the presentation, but bear that in mind, because that kind of colleague piece has been a real thrust for us, real focus for us on our internal culture. So moving on now, just to take a little look at where we are within the energy sector in the UK. It's fair to say we're in a pretty turbulent time. These snippets from the newspapers, and these are the main kind of broadsheet tabloid newspapers in the UK. These are from autumn last year, so from September, October, November time last year. The utility sector and energy prices have never been more in the news than they are now. They are talked about every single day and every single news outlet. Prices are talked about, suppliers going out of business, as was the case last year. What we saw through the early part of 2021 was a gradual increase in energy prices, in wholesale energy prices. What that then resulted in autumn last year, September, October time, was a high number of small suppliers going out of business really quickly. And then a larger one went out of business around November, December time. What that meant for the UK is about 10% of all energy customers are in a process called the supplier of last resort process. And I'm sure it's no different in Australia, where if a supplier goes out of business, that portfolio kind of falls within a regulatory framework and gets moved to a different supplier that would bid for that work. So for customers in the UK, they've once felt like they had choice over something. Oh, I want a green supplier or a cheap supplier or a digital supplier. For 10% of our customer base, all of a sudden that choice was taken away, alongside energy prices going up. So where we are right now, so this is the current position. We have a price cap in the UK, and the price cap drives the unit rate for energy. Up until April the 1st, that was £1,277. On April the 1st, it goes up to £1,971, an unprecedented increase, so half again. That price is reset, that energy price cap is reset every 6 months. So it'll be looked at again in September time, and all indications are it will go up again. So a huge, huge increase. And as I've said, it's a unit rate cap. So it's not that that's the maximum you will pay for your energy. You'll pay for however much you use, but that price cap just drives what the unit cost is. So as you can imagine, that has sent real shockwaves throughout the sector within the UK. And this is gas and electricity prices, because a lot of the electricity in the UK is gas powered. So regardless of whether you're all electric or you've got a mix of energy coming into your house, you will be paying half as much again for your energy, which is a huge increase. There is uncertainty in the market, as I've said, around supplier certainty. So I thought I had choice. I don't think I have now. Is my supplier going to go out of business now, the one that I'm with? So there's lots of questions, lots of dialogue going on around that. And then also, really interestingly, and I won't be staying on the conference after this because it is really late here, but I will be listening to the presentations that are going to be following me, because they will cover some of I guess what we're going through in the UK, which is the energy transition, and we're all doing that. But what does this uncertainty mean for us delivering the energy transition? Will there be less customer trust in us as a sector because energy prices are going up and going up at an unprecedented rate? And then this, I mean, it does feel pretty bleak, but I'll say it with a smile on my face. Energy prices are only one element of what is a really broad, challenging economic environment. There is higher inflation, higher interest rates, high personal tax, and then there's the net zero agenda that also needs funding. So I think we all recognise that the cost of things that we have, services, products, materials, things that we buy as a business, things that I buy at home, everything is going up at differing rates, but we're paying more out for things that we need. So it just feels like everywhere we turn at the minute in the UK, things are just costing more money, and that's putting a tremendous strain on household budgets. So what it means for our customers in short is, and we're seeing this already, much higher, significantly higher levels of vulnerability and poverty, and especially fuel poverty. So we often use the phrase in the UK, the choice between, if you're really hard up, if you're really strapped for cash, the choice between heating your home or eating. Well, actually, we know now for a lot of customers, there's not a choice there. They just can't afford to do either, which is, it's an awful position to know that we're in. So yeah, a very, very challenging economic environment that we're working in. And coupled with the fact that the last 2 years have not been normal years. When I think back to actually when I was in Australia, the freedom I had, you know, I guess how the world was 2 years ago is just very different to how it is now. And there are some key themes coming through in customer research about how people are feeling in general coming out of the pandemic, and what they need from organisations like ourselves that we undoubtedly need to reflect into whatever cultural journey we're on. So reassurance, people are far more conscious of their own safety and absolutely need more reassurance from organisations like ourselves. People have spent the last 2 years feeling pretty unsafe generally in their health. So for organisations that are like ours who have to reassure customers that we are safe, everything is okay, what customers are saying is they need that, and they need that more than ever now. Tolerance and patience and understanding is at an all-time low. And I'm sure, again, we all feel like this. We just want life to be easy. We need it to be easy. It hasn't been easy for the last 2 years. And again, we have a huge role to play in this, or not. Customers will be, and I'm seeing this, extremely sensitive to any kind of chink, any kind of disruption, any kind of failure. And then the last thing really is control. And again, I'm sure we all feel like this. We have had little or no control over what's happened in our lives. We've been told where we can go, where we can't go, what time we can go out, where we wear masks, where we don't wear masks, where we go and get tested. We have basically been told what to do for 2 years. Things are changing now, but generally people want to feel like that. And whether this will change, and I'm sure it will, but right now, people want to feel like they've got control over what's happening to them rather than having things done to them. And again, organisations like ourselves can make or break that for customers based on what we do and how we talk about it. So for all these things, they all kind of go into that melting pot of, well, what have our colleagues said they need? What are our customers saying they're feeling, which we're all feeling actually? And how can we make sure that through what we do, we reflect that back out through the services that we offer? And I don't think it's going to be easy. I think that's the rub of it. It's just a hugely challenging environment, but we can't ignore the emotional side of what people have gone through and how we reflect that through our services. So I don't have a crystal ball. I do think a lot about what might happen. I'm a natural born worrier. It comes with the territory. I'm always trying to think about what's going to happen. I expect that it will be a turbulent few years in terms of delivering and meeting customer expectations. If I think solely about cost, our customers are going to be paying half as much again through their energy bills. The irony is, for us as organisations, we are really efficient gas distribution businesses. Our costs are gradually going down, so what a customer contributes for the services we provide to them is ever decreasing. That we push ourselves to do that, but customers are still going to be paying more for what essentially feels like the same thing. The gas isn't any better. It is what it is. So I think it will be incredibly difficult for us to match customer expectations based on what they're paying, and also to deliver against those emotions that are sitting behind the scenes. I imagine we may get more complaints. I imagine they might be more difficult to sort out. So we're kind of garnering ourselves to try and make sure we've got such a close eye on what's happening, trying to expect what will happen and kind of shore ourselves up as much as we can. So I guess the crux of that whole background piece of what's happening in the UK is, so what are we doing about it? Well, there's a bit of history here for me. This was our customer service strategy that we launched back in 2013. We kept it behind the scenes. We didn't plaster it up anywhere. It was more about driving our culture and driving our direction. We had 5 core principles: understand every customer, every interaction, partner well with others, look beyond the customer journey to the one the customer's actually experiencing, don't think like a utility, we're more than that, and treat any reg requirement as the absolute minimum. So that guided and has guided our direction for the last 10 years. The charter, so our promise is keep one step ahead. So always thinking ahead. And there's 4 key promises there that we kind of test what we're doing against. So that was it on a page, nothing more than that. And that served us well for the last 10 years. But what we now know is that we needed to refresh it. We needed to make sure that we were reflecting what we were hearing from our customers and the emotion from our colleagues and the emotions from our customers. So we've reframed it with 3 key whys. So we are a customer service organisation first and foremost. I don't really spend a lot of my time talking about pipes. We talk about people, we talk about the customers that we serve, that's it. I know this isn't the same for a lot of organisations, particularly some of the electricity businesses that will be on the call. But for us, it is a once in a lifetime experience. And I think even if it isn't, to have that mantra, I think it's certainly served us well. If you think you've only got one time to get this right, you do everything you can to get it right. And then with increasing customer bills and focus on the sector, we can't not put customers at the front and centre of everything we do. We can't not do that. So we're using those 3 whys as a frame to relaunch our customer strategy and put our colleagues really at the centre of that, to make sure we're focusing on kind of what they need and what will help them. So again, I'm not very complicated in my thinking. This is our plan on a page for what's going to drive the next 4 to 5 years. The bullet points down the middle are really the internal measures, the internal actions that we're going to take. Behind each one of those is a detailed action plan based on what we've heard through the Institute for Customer Service and what we've heard through customer research and what we know to have worked well in the past. So they're very basic things, but they're things that colleagues through the survey have told us probably fallen away a little bit. We've not spent enough time focusing on them. So I'll just drill down into the training one just to give a bit of an example and a bit of flavour. So far left is a detailed plan, the scores that we got through the colleague survey. So actually any questions related to training had fallen back from 2020 to 21. Not surprising considering the pandemic and how hard it was to try and deliver training. But when I reflect back on the customer service training we have had in place, it's been intermittent. I couldn't have said we had a strong framework. We've done things when we've needed to do, rather than do them consistently. So what we've created is a customer competency framework with the premise that customer service is a profession. We're a business of engineers. We stop at nothing to train our engineers with all the technical skills that they need. But when it comes to the softer skills, we can often fall short. And I've been guilty of that in the past as well, of not driving hard enough to make sure we've got that framework in place. So the mantra is, it's a profession. We need to equip our colleagues as though, and it is a technical skill, it's a professional skill, and we can never lose sight of that. So the competency framework reflects the safety and technical competencies that we have for our engineers. It's very basic training, and then detailed training depending on your role. So do you need negotiation skills? Do you need emotional intelligence training? What do you need? And we will make sure that we provide it, and it won't be a one-stop shop. It will be enduring, and that's really important. And we'll measure it through lots of different means, so external benchmarking, as well as kind of things like your career retention and development, and then also your traditional customer satisfaction and complaints, what's happening in those areas. So behind each of those 6, I guess, colleague focus areas is sitting a detailed action plan that's telling us what we need to do based on what colleagues have said. But what we're not doing is losing sight of the services that we provide to customers. We've always been really strong in innovating, coming up with new ideas, really delivering kind of grassroots improvements. So we're continuing with those. And I've just put in an example that kind of nods back to our customer strategy and the principles. So one of the 5 principles was think about the customer journey and the bit before and the bit after. So don't just think about that traditional journey with you as an organisation. What happens before and what happens after in those grey areas can really define how a customer feels about what you've done. So we have a service called Making Every Contact Count, which is all about how we look after customers when we've disconnected the supply. And sometimes we have to for safety reasons, but it's not our responsibility to fix it. It's internal, it's in the house. Our responsibility ends at the meter. So over the years, we've really tried to think, what can we do that helps that customer get to the end of their journey, which is the gas back on. So we've come up with this. It's been 3 years in development. We've got a really strong set of referral partners across our network and a really strong mechanism now where all our engineers are trained to identify vulnerabilities, have sensitive conversations when we are isolating an appliance or the supply, and make the necessary referrals with that customer's permission to partners that we've got in place. And these can either be national partnerships like Citizens Advice or National Energy Action, or more localised partners that we have in each of our 9 regions. Just depends which partnerships we've set up. So we make that referral and then we follow it up. The customer care team will give the customer a call. Have you managed to get things sorted out? If not, what more can we do to help you? It's not our responsibility. It's not part of our regulatory obligations, but it is absolutely the right thing to do. And culturally for us, it's absolutely the right thing to do. So of course we would spend time doing it. And it means that that customer then is looked after right to the end of their journey, way beyond where our kind of interaction should traditionally have ended. So to wrap up, I think if I think back to the exam question, which is how do you kind of get your culture right and moving and sustained in challenging times? I think for me, I know we've got the right approach. I know we've got the right leadership. I know we've got the right frameworks in place, because you just feel it. When it's there, you just feel it. There's customer improvement groups that meet. The energy that they've got is incredible. It always has been. Our operational teams eat the scores for breakfast. They can't wait to see them. They're asking all the time what they can do to improve. What we know we've done is not been strong enough on some of the basic training, the basic kind of things that sit around the edges. So we're bringing that focus back to the people and the process stuff that colleagues have said is important. We want to continue to deliver that service that matches our ambition of keeping one step ahead. We're not going to hide behind the fact that we're in a challenging time. You know, yes, we are, but there's no shying away from that. But even more, we need to work even harder to make sure that our customers get the service that they deserve. And we don't know what the next 12 to 18 months are going to hold. It could get harder. But I'm really confident that with the plans we've got in place, we can be confident that we're doing everything we can to deliver those services to our customers. But it really does start with getting our own house, getting that internal customer service piece absolutely right, and not accepting any failure, any inconsistencies. And now more than ever, we have to do that for our customers. So that's all from me. Carolee, thanks for listening, and I'd love it if there were any questions.
Thanks, Eileen. Fantastic presentation. Thinking about energy, I didn't think that we would be talking about emotion today. So thanks for bringing emotion to the table. That was great to hear. Also, I loved your slide with the cutout bits of the headings of the broadsheets and the paper. Working from home and, you know, being remote, you don't often see a real paper very often these days, and to have that and to have the memories of seeing papers everywhere is fantastic. And it's very confronting to see all of those headlines.
It's felt very confronting, but it's felt quite suffocating at times, because you've not been able to move forward. I mean, all I've ever wanted is for my family to talk to me about the job that I do, but not in these circumstances.
Yes, yes. Eileen, we've had a fantastic question from Rachel Quigley from AusNet in Australia here. She's asked a question and she says, excuse me, I'm reading from over here, is beyond priority services register in the UK, are businesses looking at doing more to support customers in vulnerable circumstances? And do you think that that would have a knock-on effect to Australia and the regulator here?
Yeah, hi Rachel. Lovely to hear from you. Yeah, companies are doing more beyond the priority services register. I think we all accept that the register is one version of the truth, but not everybody's going to be on it. And actually some vulnerabilities don't fit onto the register. So something we're really looking at long and hard in the UK is financial vulnerability. You can't currently be registered on the Priority Services Register if you're financially vulnerable. Obviously right now that's massive, that's a huge vulnerability. So yes, we are doing more to look across and make sure we're looking after any customer who we find in a vulnerable situation. And if we can get them registered on the Priority Services Register, because we know that will allow them access to lots of other services. But we wouldn't not help them just because they weren't, or we couldn't see that eligibility. In terms of kind of changing, I guess that regulatory view, so our kind of backstop is the Priority Services Register as an industry. That's how we would define somebody that needed extra need from a vulnerability perspective. But Ofgem really do welcome and are very open to the work that we do that broadens that out and provides insight beyond the, I guess, the confines of the PSR itself.
I think we've lost Eileen. Oh, you're back, Eileen.
Have you got me back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're back. Few techie issues, but that's okay. Eileen, can I jump to another question? Thank you for answering Rachel's question there. You talked about the operations guys eating the data for breakfast, and it's so important for them to be across the numbers, watching them go up, seeing what they can do to influence the numbers, really. What key challenges do you have in that space, and how are you making sure that the data is embedded in the culture?
Well, I guess the first thing is to make sure everybody, in very simple terms, understands how to access the information, what it means for them as an organisation. So we have a really easy to use dashboard. So anybody across the business who works in the, I guess, in the areas that we measure can have access and can have a look at those scores at any time. And then there are people within each of the operational teams who are kind of the experts at pulling that data out, manipulating it, looking at what it's saying, challenging the low scores. So I think the first step for me was making sure everybody understands what they're looking at, because it's really easy, isn't it, to kind of say, oh no, I know the score's really low, but actually when I run the report, it's telling me something different. So it's trusting the data, but they do trust the data. I guess the challenge operationally always is time. You know, everybody's got another job to do. They've got their day job to do, and trying to get that mindset of actually looking at the scores, understanding them is my day job. I shouldn't be expecting a team to tell me what to do, separate to my own team. You know, I should have the wherewithal to look at that data and understand what I need to do. And that's the journey we've been on. I think we're getting there, but I'd say, yeah, the challenge of time is always going to be one, and turnover of colleagues coming in and out of the business, you know. So, but I think getting colleagues to understand the data, and use it in the right way. So I don't know, Caroline, if I can just, I've got something that might help answer the question that's just on our homepage. If I can share that,
screen
is that
share.
all right?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I was delighted when I saw it earlier. It couldn't have been better timed to kind of illustrate the point. So this is our home intranet site, and we've got Yammer, which is kind of our internal chat, and we've got our network customer group, which is all operational teams. They're just operational managers, frontline colleagues, and they meet every month, and they meet in each of the depots. So we have 9 depots across our network, so they do a roadshow and they go around. So this is Paul, who runs that group, who's one of our site managers, and he's put this update on today that he met with the team. They've talked about scores. The theme for today was the high risk of a low score for customer satisfaction, which properties are at high risk of a low score. And then he goes on to talk about what we've been doing. that they actually laid down their mission for this next year. And these are the scores they're going to go after. So this is as a network, that customer group, which represents all our operations, but it's at different levels within the business, have actually publicised these scores. So it's the first time I've seen them. Clearly, I'm delighted, Kelly. They look really high.
They're very high.
Really glad
Brilliant.
that's what they're not setting their sights low.
That's great. Look, yeah, Eileen, thanks so much for giving us an insight into your world, and, you know, to be able to quickly screen share what you're looking at on a daily basis, and really operationalizing the customer sentiment within the various levels of your organisation. It's so powerful. Thank you very much for your presentation, Eileen, and thanks again for joining us so late in your evening. We'll let you go to bed now. So
lovely.
Good night, Eileen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of your conference. Thanks, everybody.